Morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 28th, 2020 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us this morning. We will begin, as we always do, with an invocation. Reverend Eric Hoy from First Presbyterian Church is with us. Please stand and join us in prayer.
Let us pray together. Holy and loving God, we come before you this morning to pause and to recognize you and to give you thanks. We thank you for this great county and all the people who have the privilege to live and work here. Thank you for all the leaders whom you have chosen to serve this county and community. Bless their lives, guide their decisions according to your will. And we thank you for all those who work and serve in this county. Strengthen them, protect them, and continue to use them to strengthen our community. And this morning we pray for this meeting and all the business before it. May the decisions made today bring you glory and honor. And finally, we pray for Jeff Risley. And as he struggles for his own life, we pray for your healing presence to be upon him at this difficult time. For we lift up all these things to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend, and I appreciate you including Jeff Risley in your prayers. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southard.
Here.
Magistrate Moran.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate Berry.
Here.
Magistrate McCollum.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the January 14th, 2020 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
So move.
With motion and a second, any other clarifications, additions, or corrections? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have with us this morning Abby Dixon from the Henderson Tourist Commission. Glad to have her join us and give us an update. Abby?
Good morning.
Thank you all for having me today. I have a few things for you, so I'm going to pass them out real quick and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all again for having me. I'm Abby Dixon, and I'm the director of the Henderson Tourist Commission. I thought it was really important that we update you on some of the things that we're up to this time of year. As you know, it's legislative session time, and we work really hard all year round to promote Henderson as a destination for visitors. We know the tourism industry is important to our local economy here in the county and in the Commonwealth of Kentucky as a whole. But this time of year, we make sure we spend time advocating for the issues that could help or hinder tourism in Kentucky and in Henderson, and that we make our voices heard in Frankfort. So I am heading to Frankfort in just a few weeks, February 19th and 20th, to meet with our local legislators. And I wanted you all to have a heads up on some of those issues and the legislation that we think is important. You'll see a KTIA legislative agenda. So KTIA is the Kentucky Travel Industry Association. We work very closely with KTIA. This consists of local tourist commissions, hotels, attractions, anyone who has a vested interest in the tourism industry in Kentucky. So the KTIA board put together this legislative agenda after having multiple conversations with us, the members, and then my board voted to approve this as our own legislative agenda at our January meeting. So I wanted to share with you all some of the things that we're going to be talking about in Frankfort. Some things affect us more than others, of course. But they're all important. We know that when tourism is strong in Western Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, Central Kentucky, it's strong in Henderson too. So we work really hard to make sure that we collaborate together. So the first thing that you see is probably the most important thing for Henderson right now. And this is really more at this point of a city issue, but again, you know that when the city's strong, the county's strong, and vice versa. So it's restaurant tax. So right now, Henderson, as a former second-class city, isn't able to enact a restaurant tax. The tourism industry has come out in support this year of expanding that eligibility to a city like Henderson. So that would be a game changer for what we could do as far as destination marketing goes. The only thing that's important to us is that the legislation is kept to provide a reasonable amount of funding back to the Tourist Commission. That's kind of how the legislation started, for smaller communities to be able to fund tourism marketing. So we'd like to keep it that way. But we understand that cities have a real financial need right now, and this is an additional revenue stream for them and for tourism marketing. So that's kind of the hot topic right now in tourism. So that's something that we're going to be having a lot of conversations about in Frankfurt. The transient room tax, you all know we have a 3% transient room tax in Henderson. Right now, there's no legislation on the table to change the 1% state transient room tax, but of course, we would oppose any legislation that would decrease that. We know that marketing our destinations is really important, and we've got to have the funding to do it. A welcoming Kentucky. Kentuckians are known for being warm, hospitable people, so any legislation that would hinder diverse visitors from coming to our state, we would oppose. The film incentives. So this is something that I think as a whole our state can do a lot better job of marketing. We actually have really great film incentives right now. Atlanta, Georgia, you see that a lot of films are shot outside of Atlanta. They have great film incentives. California, obviously. Kentucky is actually number 3 right now as far as film incentives go for being attractive to filmmakers to come shoot here. Some of those tax credits a couple of years ago went away. We would love to see those tax credits come back so that we can be as competitive as possible and potentially attract a film to Henderson. Sports gaming, this is relevant right now. So House Bill 137 was recently adopted by the House Licensing and Occupations Committee. It's awaiting the full House vote. This would permit sports wagering, and that's something that we're obviously in favor for. We know that it would increase visitation to Henderson and create new revenue streams in the state as well. The bourbon visitor experience, unfortunately, that's not something that really affects Henderson right now, so I'm just going to skip over that and head to the end. So workforce issues, my gosh, you guys are talking about workforce all the time. You know that it's an issue here across the state, really across the country. It affects the hospitality industry too, and we know that it's important that our hotels and our attractions can hire a strong staff to provide the best experience possible for our visitors. So any legislation that would help alleviate some of those workforce concerns right now, we're all for. And then finally, human trafficking. There is House Bill 183 on the table right now. Human trafficking is often related to hotels. Unfortunately, festivals can be a big part of that problem. So we support any legislation that could more fully and effectively address those concerns as well. We want to keep our visitors safe, and we want everyone to have just a wonderful experience in Kentucky, and we need the tools and resources to promote Kentucky and Henderson as a wonderful place to visit. So those are, that's just kind of an overview of the issues that we're looking at and we're talking about in Frankfurt right now. Are there any questions? And then I'll get to some of the really fun stuff.
I would say, I'm sorry.
No.
One thing the KTIA might consider for communities that are not on the Bourbon Trail is a relaxing of the conditions around the ability of a distillery to open up a storefront anywhere they want. And I'll give you an example in our case. It would be terrific if Corky Taylor and the Taylor family could open up a Peerless storefront here to sell samples as well as Peerless merchandise, but they're restricted, I think, by the regulations around that, including having to have a working still on site,
Right.
and some other things that kind of seem counterintuitive to improving the spreading of their ability to create revenue and have a presence in towns like ours that would fully embrace it. So,
Right.
I think you understand the KRS sections that I'm referring to. So you might just put a bug in the ear of the KTIA that I'm sure there are other communities would love to have some sort of
Absolutely.
presence of the bourbon industry, even if they don't have a distillery in their community. So
Right.
just throwing that
Yeah,
out
good
there.
feedback. Any other questions?
Well, not a question, comment about the restaurant tax. Of course, we had an opportunity to do that at one time, then we changed and went to second class
Right.
city, and it's really not fair that we can't.
I agree.
Paducah is really pushing for it as well, and where Elizabethtown does have it and we can't have it, it makes a competition different for tourism and whatnot.
Right.
But it also, I went to see my daughter, and I stopped in Litchfield, and I stopped at McDonald's, and I got a Coke, and it was $1.09, and I thought the little young lady that waiting on me had mistaken and not given me the correct change back, and I said, well, you didn't give me, because I thought it was $1.06, and she said, oh no, this is how we have our convention center, and this is somebody, a young lady working at McDonald's, and they were seriously
She's
proud.
selling it.
That really, she was selling it, that they had a convention. That's where we have our graduation, which, I mean, would seem somewhat important for Henderson if we had those kind of opportunities as well.
Right.
And we don't, unfortunately. Something that I'm sort of passionate about is bike, walking trails.
We've
and
had
horseback
conversations
riding.
about that.
Yes. And Louisville, Lexington, Atlanta, Owensboro, Evansville, if you've seen right there along 41 where they've got the solar lights down, I mean, it's just so neat. Indianapolis, they've got a trail that goes from there, that's an old railroad thing, goes over to Illinois. And the horseback people bring, I mean, people that have horses are nuts. I mean, I call them
They
hay farmers.
travel.
They do travel.
And they spend money.
We used to, my stepdaughter had a horse, and she showed it, and it was very expensive, but it really was neat. It was a neat experience for her, and it was also, but it would bring people from all over. If there's any grants that might be out there that we might be able to, that you find out about or whatever
Right.
in your work, I would appreciate it. I would like to, I think it does more than just tourism. It can sort of bind the communities together, like Niagara to Roberts,
Right.
over to Anthoston, and you know, it just Spotsville and Basket and different places. If you had that, it can also be, I think, there are people that do not have driver's license. Maybe they can't get a license. Maybe they've had a DUI or whatnot. But yet it would, if you had an easy way to get to and from work, people, when I was growing up, I mean, they walked from the East End about 4 miles downtown to Dixie Lou Frocks to work. And if you had places like that, or if you had along so many places are connected. I mean, you could get along Canoe Creek from out near Basket all the way to the YMCA, for instance, or to North, or you know, the place.
Right.
It just seems like it has a lot of opportunities. Plus, it makes property values go up. It's incredible.
So, and the thing about what Magistrate McCollum is kind of speaking to, what's good for tourism and for visitors coming into Henderson is also really incredible for our residents. So it goes hand in hand. Outside of just the economic impact, you know, in 2018 we saw a $76 million economic impact from visitor spending in Henderson. That's a big number. So those are folks that are coming to our festivals. Even, you know, they're stopping and buying gas and eating at our restaurants. They're driving our local economy. It's important, but when we have these things that are wonderful for visitors, you know, we get to go enjoy them too. So these things are important, and I appreciate those comments, and I will definitely keep an eye out for any opportunities to fund something like that.
Well, I'm always sound. Back in the 80s, I was referred to as the college boy by the fiscal court. We had an opportunity, CSX Railroad offered to give us the railroad lines all the way to Paducah. Each county could get their portion. I mean, I would ride my bikes down to Waverly to go to Peak Brothers, and I mean, it would just be a neat thing to be able to do, and it would help tie our communities and together. It would help physical fitness. It would help a lot of problems that are ailing our community. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one last thing. You all have the official visitor's guide for Kentucky before you. This was released January 8th. So the fella on the cover is J.D. Shelburne. He is soon to be really famous. He's a Kentucky boy that is now in Nashville. He's a singer-songwriter, really incredible guy, really proud of his home state. So he's kind of our poster child for the year. It's the year of Kentucky music, and there is no better place for authentic Kentucky music than Henderson. We have 3 major festivals in the summer, and just a lot to market this year. We work really hard with the Kentucky Department of Tourism to make sure that we are as close to top of mind as possible when they're promoting the state of Kentucky. We all feel like Western Kentucky gets a little bit left out sometimes, and when it comes to attracting visitors, I want to make sure that that is absolutely not the case. So I tabbed page 106, which is where our region of the state is introduced. We market our region as the Bluegrass, Blues, and Barbecue region. And I was just tickled pink when I read the copy on this and saw how many references there are to Henderson, more than anywhere else in the region. We mentioned the father of blues, farmer and Frenchman, Boucherie. We have 2 amazing wineries in the county. We have Audubon Park. People come from all over the world to see the largest collection of Audubon artifacts and originals, which is really impressive. It just made me happy to open this spread and see how many times Henderson is mentioned. I think every year keeps getting better, and every visitor experience we strive to make the best it can be. And I'm just excited for all of the good things that are to come in 2020, the year of Kentucky music. So thank you all for having me, and thank you all for all your support. And I will make sure that I do as good of a job as I possibly can in Frankfort in the next few weeks when we're talking to our legislators.
Thank you, and I think you do a terrific job year-round.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Judge.
all you do.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions of Abby? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, if Bill Hubiak would join me up here to open the bids for our courthouse and judicial center custodial services. We still only have 1 bid on that. Is that correct? 2.
First bid I'm going to open up is for custodial services for the Henderson County Judicial Center, and this is from France. Okay, they bid this as a monthly charge for performing janitorial duties listed below. Janitorial monthly price includes all floor care services per scope, $4,150 per month. Additional services for work outside the scope of work are listed as price per square foot. Buffing is 12 cents per square foot. Strip and wax, 45 cents per square foot, and also carpet cleaning at 20 cents per square foot. Second bid is also from France. This is for custodial services at the county courthouse. Again, this is bid as a monthly charge per the scope of work. Bid price is $26.95 per month. Additional service pricing for work outside the scope of work. Buffing is 12 cents per square foot. Strip and wax 45 cents per square foot. And carpet cleaning 20 cents per square foot. Next bid is from Dirt Finders, and they're from Henderson, Kentucky, also in Evansville, Indiana. Okay, we got bid prices for both the county courthouse and for the judicial center. I believe there's a packet for everybody. First one I'm going to read off is for the Judicial Center. The price per week this has been on a per week is $11.95 per week for the Judicial Center, and for the courthouse is $10.75 per week. And this is per the scope of work. Be my suggestion to the court that we take these under advisement to calculate them, to put them on the same terms.
Yeah. We will take these in review with Charlie Ransom and bring a recommendation back to court next meeting. Everybody good with that? Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion to that effect?
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will bring it back. And next we have Angela Comer, who,
No.
Bill Hubag, I'm sorry, you have material bid recommendation. Sorry about that.
That's correct. Last fiscal court meeting, we opened up the annual material bids for the Henderson County Road Department. You should have the items in your packet. They look like this. Our recommendation for concrete annual bid this year would be Moit Concrete. For the annual N12 double-walled polyurethane pipe that we currently use would be Ohio Valley Drainage. Crushed limestone. As you can see towards the bids here, FOB mainly, if we're going to be picking it up at the yard, which we mainly do with our own equipment, we'd be looking at Mulzer crushed stone down there by the river port. indicates that we might need some delivered to the road department. We would be looking possibly at the Rogers Group for DGA and Channel Liner. As you can see, they were lower bidder by 15 cents on the Channel Liner, and I think it was not quite 85 cents on the DGA for delivery. Any questions on the limestone before I move on?
Do we not travel across county lines?
We can travel across county lines, but it is not economical for us to go to Marion, pick it up.
And that would have to be picked up at Marion. We couldn't pick it up at the Waverly,
No.
Morganfield.
No, they will not let us do that. This is, well, if you look at your bid, it says picked up the Marion Quarry. Yeah. So they're already having to truck it to Waverly,
Right.
so they're not going to let us. I'm sure they'll bid that, but they'd up their price. So. Okay, moving on, chip and seal, J.H. Rudolph would be the successful bidder for that, should we decide to do any. And our annual bituminous concrete. Road Builders out of Madisonville was low bidder on hot mix surface, hot mix base, and then the shoulder work. But the thing that we do the most of our roads, when we do a resurfacing of what we have, we use the binder, and the successful bidder on that was Rogers Group.
So will we be able to pick and choose who we
Should we need any of the other? Yes, that would be my recommendation to do that, because normally they're not done at the same time. You know, you have your base down, and you either have binder or surface. But all of our roads, when we resurface them, unless it's in a subdivision, we go back with the modified binder. It's a little bigger rock, and it's less expensive than the surface.
But we're allowed to pick and choose. We don't have to
That is-
use.
yeah,
it's
we-
not all.
Yeah. Now, on the low bid is what you're going to go by.
Right.
And you outlined each one of those in yellow.
Yes.
Make a motion to accept this recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, just to double check, Bill. All the recommendations you've made are basically based on price, right? Were there
That
any
is
oth-
correct.
Yeah.
You have to understand that we do have the ability, should there necessitate an urgency, and we can't get somebody to accommodate the need, the court has the ability to go outside of these bid prices right here to facilitate any kind of emergency needs should we need it, or if they can't meet the time frame that has to be done, or they're out of inventory.
And were there any other considerations taken for any of these recommendations that did not include just low price? Anything else?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else that was involved in the decision?
No.
Okay. So, any other questions of Bill? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting these bids signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Comer, if you wouldn't mind coming up and briefing us on the Premier Integrity Solutions contract.
Okay, so as of January 6th of this year, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration requires all drivers be registered in a driver's license drug and alcohol clearinghouse. So why I'm here today is to Premier Integrity Solutions is who manages our random drug screens. They also have a service that can manage this for us, because now all the drivers will have to be queried once a year, and then other times depending on different things. This is the reason that they're doing this is they're going to make it. It's going to make it easier. It's one database that all this information is going to go in. It makes it easier for employers to meet their pre-employment investigations. It makes it more difficult for drivers to conceal violations. It makes it easier for employers to stay in compliance. So Premier Integrity can manage this for us, and it's going to cost roughly $431 a year with the amount of drivers, DOT drivers, that we have right now. So there are some pretty stringent regulations on it. If they have to be done in a certain fashion, in a certain time frame. So we would like for Premier Integrity to manage that for us.
And to reiterate, maybe clarify, DOT randomly chooses drivers from throughout the country for testing to make sure that their employers are adhering to federal law when it comes to drug testing for people with CDL license. They utilize a central database, and it's our responsibility as an employer to submit our results, ongoing results, to that database in a very particular way, in a very particular time frame. It's labor intensive for us. Premier Integrity Solutions will handle that reporting for us for $400 a year and do it the correct way and the correct timing. And Angela, when she mentioned this to me, it seemed like we're going to have a much easier time reporting the way we should and shifting some liability to do this correctly to Premier. So,
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Debbie Edwards with Animal Control reports, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I previously sent out the fourth quarter report for you guys to just look at. You previously have the financials. We are making some necessary changes inside the shelter. The first thing, I guess, would be we eliminated the shelter manager position completely. It just was not fiscally responsible to keep that position as well as mine and a marketing coordinator. So between RD and I, we're trying to absorb those responsibilities moving forward. Just trying to run it as lean as we possibly can. We are in the middle of painting. We did secure a grant for new epoxy painting, which we really desperately needed to hopefully reduce the amount of diseases and infections going on whenever parvo season hits, and it's much easier to clean and disinfect. We would love for you guys to come in and see all the changes that we're doing. We've secured quite a few grants. We're putting Band-Aids on an old building, but very much needed repairs. So we're really thrilled.
Debbie, is there any worry about not having the shelter manager position and spreading that work among the remaining staff, whether it can get done properly?
Not currently, no. My job was originally going to be part-time hours. It makes more sense for me to possibly do a salary type full-time position and absorb most of that. A lot of our descriptions were overlapping as it was, and having 3 full-time animal control officers, it just did not make sense having that position there.
And your $18,000 loss through half of your fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that at all?
We've had a rough year. A lot of things breaking down, falling apart. A lot of the grants that we have are going to repair a lot of that. We've had a lot of wear and tear on the animal control vehicles. One is pretty much out of service, not really safe for the road unless you're in the city limits. We're still trying to find a new truck. We're just keeping our head above water, trying to do the best we can.
For expenses related to animal control, in addition to the money we allocate you every year, if it does become an emergency situation where we're not able to do animal control services for the public, please come to us and huddle with me. And if it amounts to an emergency that requires some money to fix, we might be able to do that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Obviously, you are taking care of a service for us that's part of our responsibility as a county and important to citizens. So if it's just a matter of of some money, especially one-time expenses, I think we'd be open to trying to fix it if we could.
The community has been very helpful as well. Everybody's just really pitching in and I think wanting to better the Humane Society as a whole. So we're very thankful.
Do you know how much you have in reserve right now?
Not
Would
off
you
the top
guess?
of my head. I can definitely send
Enough
it to
to
you.
cover a loss if you ended up losing 18 to 20,000 this fiscal
Yes.
year. In the end, you'd have enough to cover that.
Yes, sir. I would like to add that a lot of our animal control calls, not all, but the majority of them are animals running at large. And, we just want to reiterate that, there is a leash law. You cannot let your animals run loose without being, in a fenced-in yard, a leash in the house. A lot of these, they don't get reclaimed. They just let them run loose, and then they don't come and get them. So it's kind of a sad situation.
How long do we keep them?
5 to 7 days, depending on if they have any identification on them. 7 days max. And we do post, immediately on our animal control Facebook page as well. Do you know me? And a lot of them will call and say that they are their pets, but they just choose to not get them back. So at that point, they go up for adoption.
Any other questions of Debbie? Thank you for the report, and please stay in contact with us.
Thank you.
You have the detention center reports in your packet. Jailer Brady wants to come up and amplify those.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have the quarterly report also? Okay. I've got some pricing back for the boiler holding tanks, which has been repetitive on the quarterly report, and it looks like we're going to have to bid those out. They're going to be more expensive, and it may require an addition on to the plumbing chase and the maintenance hallway where the existing boilers are, because they'd set those boilers in the building and then they put the roof on the jail. So they're going to have to come in and cut the boilers out, and the way the building's lined out, it's 2 short turns with a 38-inch doorway. They can't get anything through there to put it in that area. We currently have one of our new walk-in freezers down that was with the kitchen project, and luckily Jim David was available, and they brought us a freezer truck. So we've got one sitting out behind the jail, so we didn't lose the food, and it's completely full. They couldn't put anything else in there. The service guys are there working on it right now. It's still under warranty. Other than that, on the quarterly report, there's a lot of repetitive things. If you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions about the quarterly report?
I know this came up a time before, something about the kiosks.
Yes.
And being able to use that to bond out of, and I see it's still on here.
It is.
Have we made any?
We have
we
not.
made any headway on that?
The judge brought it up to me yesterday evening, and we talked about it. I spoke with Department of Corrections after he and I talked yesterday evening, and just asked, is there any other jails that I can reach out to? And they're supposed to be getting me a list today to see if there's anybody else.
I've had conversations with the circuit court clerk and plan to have conversations with the administrative office of the courts, who he must answer to, and hopefully we come up with a decent plan to convince both the AOC and the Department of Corrections to allow us to make this change. So stay tuned, is all I can say.
Department of Corrections did say that if we did begin accepting bonds using cards, that you all would need to approve it.
Okay. Any members of the jail committee want to add to any of this? More?
That's it, as far as I know of, unless you all have other questions.
Well, I think you all know that Mitzi Weber has transferred from the road department to the jail, and can you give a quick briefing on what her responsibility is going to be and what will happen in a few months with her position?
I actually brought Paula Holden. She's working and training Mitzi, and Paula works for Southern Health Partners. Mitzi will be the medical team administrator, so she will be making sure things flow smoothly, the appointments are set up and met, that all of the billing and charges are entered. There's one clerk back there, and 700 plus inmates on a daily basis. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And in the past, in our facility, the medical team administrator has been a nurse. This will allow the nurse that normally filled that position to be able to see inmates and maintain the 24-hour requirement as far as seeing an inmate when they put in a sick call.
And Mitzi will be working for you temporarily,
Correct, until she will begin April the 1st.
with Southern Health.
With Southern Health Partners go on their payroll.
So she will be a private employee as of April 1.
Correct.
So if I understand it correctly, it's your desire to be able to pay Mitzi the same basically hourly rate that she was making at the road department.
That was their agreement, yes, sir.
And right now that falls outside the boundary of any particular, of her particular position, the rate of pay. So I would suggest you ask the court right now that they accept Mitzi's hiring at the same rate of pay as she was making at the road department, knowing it's going to be a temporary situation, and it will not lead to the exceeding of your budget line item in any way for payroll. It's overall line item. So is there anything else that we should probably add to that request, Mr. Gold?
So,
Requesting the hiring and requesting rate of pay.
so this is a temporary job.
Right.
Excuse me. It's a temporary job. Are we going to fill that position when she's at April
No,
1st?
I have vacancies. We always have vacancies at the jail. And she's just going to assume the role of, or go into one of those slots, those vacant slots. But when she leaves and goes over as a Southern Health Partners employee, then that will go back to a normal jail position.
She'll be performing the same kind of duties with Southern Health Partners that she'll be doing for Amy in the short term.
They're just going to pay her instead of us.
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, as far as I understand it, the same duties will be covered when Mitzi moves to Southern Health Partners, so we won't be lacking somebody doing that work for the jail.
Correct.
Is that kind of your
Normally,
question, too?
the only person that we have in medical is the deputy that's providing security.
So we're training Mitzi to do the job now, and then we're going to give her to them?
Well, or we could just sit there and wait with nobody in that position until April the 1st. There wasn't. Paula has been here for months, and she was put in our jail to fix some issues that we had back in the medical department. With the increase in the number of SAP inmates that we have, and throughout the years, inmates are not getting any healthier.
Well,
And
we aren't either.
no, I know. And federal inmates, mean, I'll just say it. If there's a federal inmate and they have a major medical issue, they put them in Henderson County because they know that we have 24/7 medical coverage. And they know that they're going to get the answers that they need. And if the inmate has to go out for a hospital visit or something like that, they're kept informed, the Marshal Service is. There's no question after the fact. And with that being said, the number of medical runs that we're doing is astronomical. We're pulling deputies from the floor and overhead staff to take inmates to the doctor because the transport officers are taking inmates to the doctor, transporting to federal court and things like that. It's busy.
So the workload's increasing on.
It very much has.
To put maybe a finer point on it, is the jailer has a constitutional duty to make sure that that the inmates are getting medical care, and that it's adequate medical care. She's contracted with Southern Health Partners to do that. There have been some challenges with regard to that and some failures with regard to that, and Southern Health Partners, I believe, recognizes that, which is why Paula's here. Paula's getting a handle on that and taking care of that. But in the meantime, until Mitzi's able to go on to their payroll full-time, that's got to be done, because when there is not adequate health care provided to the inmates, that's something that is a liability for the jailer and exposes the county to potential lawsuits. And, fortunately, the lawsuits that are out there right now, I'm not sure have much merit to them, but there can be situations where, even defending them is a cost to the county. Even with CAECO defending that for us, there's a cost to them, so that reflects in our premium. Plus, there is a potential to exposing the jailer personally to liability there. So it's something we've got to do. It's got to be done. We've got to make sure that there is adequate medical care for the inmates. So as far as the flow of the money, when I first thought about it, I thought, wait a second, we're subsidizing the training of one of their employees, but on the other hand, we're also making sure that individual is trained and supervised the way the jailer wants to see it done, to where she meets her constitutional responsibilities to provide that medical care. So it's there's some fair questions there, though, about as far as the money.
I understand what you're saying, but we've contracted Southern Health. Is that right? Mm-hmm. We contracted them to do the job.
Right. And one of the other things is, and Paula and I spoke about this morning, there's several of the employees that, for their additional duties or their position, they are above and beyond what is required, and it's benefiting the inmates. And there's deposits into the jail fund where we transfer the money from the commissary profit account into the jail fund. Her position is, the law says, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to provide necessary medical care for an inmate. Necessary medical care is what Southern Health Partners is providing within their contract. When Mitzi's pay, when she has transferred over to Southern Health Partners as an employee, then the amount that has been expended for her salary in that position will be transferred back over into the jail fund.
So we're going to be reimbursed that money back. Is that what you're saying? It's getting better.
Hey, I can maintain a budget. We don't have a problem with that one.
Well, but I think Magistrate Southern's point's well taken. After Mitzi moves to Southern Health Partners, do we have any? Are you going to get what you need, even if? Does Southern Partners then control where Mitzi works in their network? I assume they have other jails.
She will be working for Henderson County. She is being hired in the position for Henderson County. The other jail, and I'm not sure if it's the only one, that they have, that their MTA is not a nurse, was Hardin County. So Mitzi was there last week, sitting down with them to figure out how they do things, and they have a very well-run medical department. So we want to make sure she's trained correctly, and training her now rather than later covers all of us.
And stays in our jail.
I would make a motion to grant this request. She did talk to the two of us about this. I didn't totally know what Mitzi's salary was and whatnot. I would like to ask that in the future, when we've got anything like that, we do it ahead of time rather than after the fact. But I'd make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Motion is second. The motion is to accept the hire at Mitzi's same rate of pay that she was making at the road department. So just to clarify that. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else?
Vehicle accidents. Yesterday, KYTC Officer Southard was out on Highway 60 around Dock Overstreets, and a piece of piping came off of a semi headed the opposite direction and tore up the front of her truck. It's repairable. We're lucky that it didn't go through the windshield and hit the driver or the inmates. And then Friday morning around 5:45 had a transport team headed for Knoxville, and just outside of Nashville, wet roads, young boy heading for college, and 1983 Ford truck hit the back of the vehicle because he was unable to stop on the wet roads. Had 2 inmates and 2 officers in the van. Luckily, everyone is fine. We had 2 accidents within just 4 days. Lucky no one was hurt, but we're going to have some vehicle repairs.
Are you filing an insurance claim?
Yes.
And just as another request, make sure you work closely with Brenda so she knows the claims are being filed. Yeah.
Teresa handles that.
Good deal.
And the teenager had to have new underwear when your officers pulled their guns.
Yes, he came running out of his vehicle, running up to the door of the vehicle, and that's not a smart thing to do. No. You've got inmates and 2 armed officers in a van.
Poor kid.
In the dark. What?
Be careful, sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Did we not
Okay.
get the truck where the pipe fell off of?
No. It was the other direction, and by the time
Yeah, I
she got
understand.
stopped, it was gone.
It's hard to catch them.
Thank you. And I'll need a motion to accept her quarterly report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions, Judge Braden? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And thank you very much. And if County Clerk Renise Abner would join us, she has 2 submissions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today, I'm submitting my 2020 budget, my annual order setting maximum amounts for my deputies, monthly, quarterly, and yearly reports of payments submitted to the county, and I'm submitting a check for the interest earned in 2019 on our usage tax account. So, can I do all that together?
Sure.
Okay.
Submit your 2020 budget by itself so that it's voted.
Okay.
Well, you can talk about both.
Okay.
We'll vote on them separately.
Okay. My budget for 2020 projected revenues is based on what was collected in 2019. That's just, basically what it is every year. It's previous revenues from the previous year. And Department of Local Government, this is required, and it's based on January through December, unlike our budget. So, and I have estimated an increase of approximately $256,000 due to a law that became effective January 1 that increased recording fees. So I look for a significant increase.
In revenue.
In revenue,
Yep.
yes. So, half of that will affect our current year budget here, our fiscal budget. So in my, do you want me to do my excess fees now, or you want to vote on the budget?
Let's vote on that.
Okay.
Again, this is an annual requirement of DLG. Of course, we did Sheriff Brady's last meeting. This is Renice's submission. Any other questions?
Last year on the budget? Well, it would have been, I don't have that figure with me, but it would have been $256,000 less than whatever it shows there.
Total revenue?
So on revenue. Are you missing a page? No, I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm talking about my budget.
Is this it? This?
No, this is it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Last year's was a little over 11.5. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the
In a second.
motion and a second on the annual budget estimate and revenue. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now the maximum amounts.
Yes. My annual order setting maximum amounts for deputies did not increase from 2018 or 2019. It's the same this year. So, yeah.
Is there other
Per
thing-
deputies?
Yes, I think it is. Deputy clerks?
Well,
County
you have
clerk
to
deputy.
include all of the,
Benefits,
insurance
yeah.
and the FICA. You have to include. That's not including that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
includes the retirement
Yes.
and all of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's the same. Okay. I'd make a motion to approve then.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. As a reminder, this document reflects Renice's estimate at the maximum she would spend. We set her actual budgets later in the year when we do that. So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor of signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. And then I have.
Excess fees?
Yeah, I have my excess fees. December excess fees, $87,824.54, with a total submitted $122,464.94. Quarterly excess fees, $264,475.69. Total submitted to county, $366,659.05. And a yearly total excess fees, $1,164,008.40, and total submitted to the county in 2019, $1,627,837. And that's a $17,000 increase from 2018 to 2019 in total submitted to the county.
I make a motion to accept.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of County Clerk? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay,
Good job.
thank you.
Mr. Gold, your
Judge,
payments.
I've got several checks today. First is a flow-through from the city of Henderson, $458.33. Dental life insurance, $408.89. Health insurance, $7,178. Aflac, $188.90. Interest, $42.89 for a total today of $8,234.12, bringing the fiscal year total to date to $103,703.88.
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, Mr. Gold? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ms. Ryder?
Thank you.
These are the bank balances after paying claims today. Your day-to-day appropriation lines should be at approximately 58%. I have 2 additional claims. In the general fund to Paducah Area Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $500. This will come from the advertising for fiscal court appropriation line. This is for the West Kentucky Thank You Sponsor Night.
It's the West Kentucky Thank You Night reception, which is a reception held in Frankfort during the budget sessions of the General Assembly to help spread the word about everything good that's going on in Western Kentucky. They invite the entire General Assembly as well as the governor to speak. I'm going to be attending, and we want to participate and make sure our name is among all the folks mentioned that night. So that's what it's basically.
And the court does this annually, or has.
Semi-annual,
Semi. The other from the LGEA fund to the Smith Mills Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $7,708. This is for the reimbursement of their insurance, and this is to come from the Volunteer Fire Department appropriation line.
A budgeted item.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve those.
Second.
Motion to approve the claims and a second. Any other questions about claims? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else? I'll make a mention on the overall board. You said percentages should be at 58%?
Yes, sir.
And I'll note that right now total spending in the general fund is at 45%. Total spending in the road fund is at 53%. And overall, just as a point of note, grand total is at 47.57%. So good job staying within those budget guidelines. Appreciate everything everybody does. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody else from the audience would like to come up to the microphone and speak for the good of the county, we'd welcome you to come up. If you don't mind, please state your name.
Bryant Woodard with the Henderson City County Rescue Squad, and requesting a 90-day extension on our current affiliation agreement that we have right now. There are some questions under workers' comp of things that we are or are not covered under, and trying to get some clarification through the assistant director up in Frankfort. He's in a conference this week, and the affiliation agreement expires 31st of this month, so asking for a 90-day extension on that.
I'd recommend we do this. Every year we sign an affiliation agreement with City County Rescue to continue our relationship and all the work that they do for us in approval. And they are reviewing that affiliation agreement, as Chief Woodard said. And I think it is definitely worth the 90-day extension to make sure they are in agreement and perhaps change some bylaws and some other guidelines to make sure they're in.
I met with them last night, and I would concur and recommend that we approve it. A lot of it has to do with language and trying to comply with the statutes. Some of it's stuff we should have done a long time ago, but it never was brought up. And so we've sort of, not I'm going to say, no, unintentionally, we've blindsided the rescue squad with this information. And if they have to, the procedure they're going to have to go through to change their bylaws and stuff to comply, number one, is going to take at least 90 days, I would say.
Yes, sir.
And it's some of it's not that hard, but under some of the statutes, they won't qualify if, and some of it's the language that we've got in our agreement probably isn't up to date with the statutes, I think, in that they're not supposed to do some things, but they can do some things if they are asked to do them. And it may be that we have to make it where if they're toned out by the chiefs, then that's the request, and then that would qualify and that would protect them from the workman's comp problems that we've got. But it's going to take a little bit of time to work around. I think, I guess, as part of my motion to accept it, and I think, Steve, you're willing to work or have one of your people work with
Absolutely.
them on that. If they'll do that, I'd make a motion to approve then.
And it's my understanding the city of Henderson has already passed the renewal for the entire year,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay,
Second.
so that's going to be the
But
question.
they may have to vote again with the
Yes.
revised
And once
document.
we change ours, probably the city's going to have to mirror what we approve eventually, so that probably will have to be redone.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Let us know how we can
Thank you,
help.
Brian.
Anybody else who'd like to speak for good of the county? Hearing none, Magistrate Southern,
All's good in District 3.
Magistrate Moran,
Same thing, all screen District 2.
Magistrate Putman.
Thank you, Judge. Just as well, good in the fourth.
I was going to let Magistrate Berry go first, but there's not much to report. So Magistrate Berry, what's up?
My first time not to go last. Thank you, Judge. Thank everybody for being here, as always. We need participation, thoughts, and things, and everybody does a good job for the county. We're good in District 1.
Magistrate McCollum.
All is good in District 5. I'd like to point out that Mr. Hubiak has taken care of my roads. They're at 100%. The only district in the whole county that we're at 100% in good shape on our roads. So.
Sorry, Tim.
Well, let me put a little more sugar on it. My roads are good in the fourth too, Bill.
I'm not so sure they're right. I think we need to survey those roads again. You might be surprised what kind of shit. Anything else, Magistrate McCollum?
No, everything's good. Thank you all.
Mr. Gold?
Things are going well, Judge. Honored to serve.
Thank you for being here this morning. We do send our best thoughts and wishes to our road supervisor, Jeff Risley, as he handles a very difficult health issue. We are storming through this fiscal year. It's amazing how quickly the time has gone, and we will soon be budgeting, believe it or not. We're beginning to ramp up preparations for that, so keep that in mind. We are having a very solid fiscal year. Revenues are so far as projected, we believe, and expenses are under budget, which is a great combination. So good to see, and again, thanks to all the help all of our department heads and elected officials do to make that happen. At this point, we are going to entertain a motion to go into executive session here in a moment. We do not anticipate any action coming out of that executive session. So unless you want to hang around to see the adjournment, you feel free to go. But at this point, I'll turn it over to
Judge, I would make a motion that we go into the executive session under KRS 61-810, Section C, discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of a public agency.
Can I ask you to add to that for personnel issue?
Pardon?
Would like to ask that you add to that a personnel issue.
A personnel issue? Yes, we added personnel agency to it.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now go into executive session.